Good morning, everyone. We've got Thoughtful Thursdays here, and we have a wonderful guest that I'll tell you about in a minute, or Barbara will. But before that, I want to say I'm Carol Henderson with Life by Design, and I help you to design your life so that the second half is better than your first half. There's no need to be sick and tired and hooked up to all kinds of tubes in a bed in the last half of your life. You might as well live it full out. So I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Miss Barbara Ellison.
How are you doing, everybody? Yeah, this is the Thoughtful Thursdays. Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm Barbara Ellison. I'm a transformational life trainer, and I love working with people to really help them to be the best version. My tagline is be the best version of you. And we have that opportunity every day to, as Carol says, to spiral up. And that's what this show is about too. And I am so excited to bring Andrew on. Andrew is a techie, and yet he's all about helping people to be secure. And whether it's in their businesses and in their life. And Andrew, I'm so excited to find out. I know this is not a business call. However, I think it's an important thing for people to know that of what you do, just because if you're listening to this, you're on the internet.
Well, and the thing is people, it's not the same world as it was.
Right.
And people think the technology is outpacing us so quickly that we have left a lot of safety and security in the dust. So that's where Andrew comes in.
Yes, so Andrew, tell us about you and how you came to be doing and what, and I think for me it's always why. What's the why behind how you came to be doing what you're doing? And so often I think that really reflects how we ourselves feel about our lives.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the why, because why you do something is pretty important. Otherwise, why would you spend your time doing it? So let's start with the why. I've been in computers since 1985. So that tells you a little something. I've seen a lot. But what's got me going these days is the internet brings a level of risk to everyone's computer. Everybody who's connected on the internet. And I put out a social media post a while back that said, which of the 5 billion people on the internet do you need to protect yourself from? Well, only the internet criminals, right? If you knew which ones they were. That's the problem.
Right.
You got 5 billion other people connected on the internet. Now, in 2010, it was in the millions. So the growth on the internet is phenomenal. Well, the issue is you have people who figure if they can scam somebody out of money, why not? If they're that dumb, they feel justified. And small business, maybe they've been on the internet for the last 10 years, but they don't realize how much it's changed, how much more dangerous it is now than it used to be. I mean, when big companies are struggle to keep the internet criminals out, what chance do you think we have? And so my journey started when I was trying to keep my own computer clean, and I ended up becoming a managed service provider because that was the only way I could do it was with automation, because manually doing it wasn't cutting it. So that started my journey. But then a friend of mine said, you ought to take a look at this compliance stuff. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, there's laws out there about privacy and protection and all this. I said, really? So he started pointing me in the right direction. I started reading the laws. Well, lo and behold, we're supposed to be protecting things if we're in business. Who to know, you go into business, you don't always think about all the things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get a checking account and not commingle funds. You're not supposed to money laundry and, do stuff like that. But who thinks of securing yourself in a manner that prevents someone from getting into your systems? And eventually what they're after is money. So they're after your bank accounts or whatever they can get, or they want to extort money out of you. That's where they call it ransomware. The reason it's
We
called
don't
that is
think of
because,
that because we're not criminals.
right, we don't think that way.
We can't get our mind around
And
how
who, with me, it's always, who would do something like that? A lot of people do it.
Well, that's the point, is actually, if you read from the FBI site, organized crime is very heavy into this stuff because they have discovered it's safer than peddling drugs. Think about that.
Wow. I never thought of it. Well, okay, I'm going to tell on myself for a minute. Andrew, I had a call with Andrew myself, and it turned out that on my new computer, I hadn't even turned on my firewall.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wow. And he found it right away. He said, Barb, your firewall's not turned on. Who
And
knew?
it was just a matter of a
I did
couple
not.
settings, huh?
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
easy fix. Couple
Yeah.
of settings. But I
But
didn't
that's
know.
not the only thing you can do, and nor is it the only thing you should do. There's lots more things you should do. The other thing on the internet is it is a hotbed of human trafficking. It
Wow.
has really allowed human trafficking to increase, and that's why they're after it so hard. One of the good things, I think, is with the use of AI, artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
they're able to map faces and match them up to people they're looking for a lot easier than people doing it. So some of the tools that are coming into play also help law enforcement. So
Right.
it's not all bad. But my thing is there's about 31 million small businesses in the US, and I mean ones that have 10 or less employees. They need to be protected. They're online. Now, they may not be doing a whole lot with their online, but they're online.
Mm.
The local shop that does printing, they're online. They get email, stuff like that. Do they think about protection? Do they think about what would happen if the internet criminal took all their files and they no longer had any history on any of their clients? Or
Oh, I never thought of that.
or what about their last backup? When did it happen? There have been cities that have been hit with ransomware and they discovered their last good backup was a year and a half ago. That doesn't work too well. They end up paying the ransom and hoping that they'll get their stuff back. These are things that a lot of it's under the radar because unless it's a big thing like the Colonial Pipeline, you don't hear about it in the news. So it's the problem with small business is the mom and pop shop isn't going to make the news if they go under. If they
Right.
get hit by ransomware and they can't pay it and they go under, it's not going to make the news. I have a friend of mine who's a managed service provider, and someone very close to him got hit, and he had to go over and clean it all up. And thankfully, because he was their MSP, he had the backups and he had the things in place, and they were only asking for $11,000.
only.
But $11,000 would have taken the business out.
Yes, I was going to say 11,000 is a lot to a small business.
Yeah, and you hear about these ransomware, and the average one is $2 million. There was one I heard recently where they had gotten into the bank account, were able to see how much money they had, so that's how much the ransom was.
Wow.
They were trying to tailor it to the business so the business would pay it. See, if you ask too much, then they'll say no, right? So don't ask too much. From a criminal business mindset, and they are a business, it
Right.
makes perfect sense.
Right.
Okay. They're in the business of stealing stuff and making money doing it.
Right. And you know, and that isn't that the sad thing? Because it just, I mean, just as we are sitting here talking, that is their business of scamming people out of money.
Yeah.
And I don't think until right this moment that I've ever thought of it is that not a great business to be in, and yet it's a lucrative business.
It is.
And they justify it by thinking, well,
And they justify it.
That's stupid. They should know better. They should, and criminals have done that in the past, just on a different level,
Well,
over a different item. It's like those people should have locked that jewelry store at night.
that's right. The
They
5
left
stores
it
on
open,
Main
so
Street.
that's their fault.
Yeah. The one that isn't locked is going to get hit first.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, and really, let's take it really far back with, well, they shouldn't have told anybody that they were moving their gold shipment on this stage to get it from,
Yeah.
They shouldn't have told anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, exactly. Oh,
Well,
boy.
and let's face it, the banks have spent a lot of money on security for good reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the caveat. You're responsible for your login to that bank. And if you log in and spend all your money, it's not the bank's fault. Even if it's not you.
Right.
They come in on your account. The bank's going to say, hey, wasn't our problem.
Yeah.
Right.
We had our
Okay.
security in place. And it makes you think about that commercial. I love that commercial where it's like this little girl's voice saying, oh, da 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 da. And it shows, and it's this big burly guy sitting in a dark living room and going,
Yeah.
and you don't know who those people are always. And
And the actual hackers don't look like the movie makes them. They look like ordinary people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
You-
let's face
yeah,
it,
you
most
never
of
know.
those internet criminals are a little bit more sophisticated on their computers than the average person, the average small business owner who's busy doing their business, not computer science. Okay.
Right.
So they use their abilities, and they actually network. They actually share with one another how to break into things, just like any criminal organization does. Johnny knows how to pick this kind of lock, so you learn from him.
Right. And I mean, and that's true of any business. Carol and I share tools all the time, but we're on the good side.
Right.
So, and we share
Thought
tools.
we were, Barbara.
And it's like, whoa. And now, I mean, this has been an eye-opening. It's like, I think I'm naive in so many ways.
So what motivates me is I want to protect the small U.S. businesses that aren't being protected, don't realize they need to be protected, and haven't really thought about how vulnerable they are. And it's a little difficult to get the message across because they're not really thinking about it, but it's the truth. And that's part of who I am.
And that's why Carol and I, we just when I first met you, it was like, I think I asked you that, like, maybe the second time I met you, I said, you need to come on our show. Just because people need to hear about this, because we don't know
what they don't know.
They get the message into every nook and cranny we can.
Yeah. And I mean, right. And that's what, Carol and I, one of the things that we say so often is you don't know what you don't know until someone else tells you something that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then you have to receive it.
And then you have to
admit that you don't know it.
Well, I know I've had people say, do you got any questions? And I'll say, I don't even know enough to ask a question.
Yeah.
Keep telling me, keep talking. As sometimes you just don't know anything about it. And so you have to kind of absorb it.
Yes.
And begin to realize this is part of the reality of our internet world.
Well, that's why you go back because you absorb what you can. And then when you go back, you can absorb more. And when you go back and you can absorb more, it's like reading a book or reading the Bible or whatever. A friend of mine used to say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When you're ready, then you're ready to absorb more. And, you know,
Yeah.
who's ever delved the depths of things?
Right. Yeah. We all are at different levels. And like with now, I can honestly say, gee, if it wasn't for Andrew, my firewall will still not be on because I had no idea that I had a firewall and that it wasn't on.
Right.
I mean, I take that. I knew that there are firewalls. I just assumed. I think that's one of the biggest things. I assumed that it was turned on when I bought the computer. No, that's I guess, well, guess what? I've learned now that that's my responsibility to make sure that my firewall was turned on.
Every time we talk, I think I need to go check mine because I know it used to be on and I used to have multi things.
Right.
When I had my brick and mortar open,
right,
multi-layers, because I dealt with a lot of young children and young girls and young guys and stuff. And so I kept lots, but that was a couple of computers ago. So need to go.
One of the other things that people don't think about is they get all excited and they'll buy identity theft protection because somebody approached them and said, you got to protect your identity. And the problem with that is it's good to have, not a problem there, but where did that identity theft come from? From some other business, some other place you did business with. They didn't protect the data well enough. It got stolen. So now they've got your name, your address, your phone number, your email, and whatever other information they have about you. And you take all that information, you put it in a database, you add more to it as you find more things about Barbara, and pretty soon you got a pretty good profile.
Well, and then there's
worth money.
All those games that you play, and they take all that information from the games and from the, you know, where did you go to school and fill out, you know, what have you done? What, you know, what of these things have you done? And, you know, what would you be like? Fill out this information and they compile.
Yeah.
They can get a pretty, and the facial recognition stuff on Facebook. What do I look like? What did you look like 10 years ago?
Why do you think
what will you look like in 10 years?
Why do you think I don't use facial recognition?
Yes, I don't.
No, because there's enough pictures out there. They can construct a facial recognition that'll work. So it's the same with voice recognition.
Turn mine off then, in other words.
The same with voice recognition. I was talking to somebody the other day. They got to where they record about 3 seconds of your voice and they can sensitize the rest.
Well, have you seen the show Maverick? The Top Gun show Maverick?
Yeah.
Well, Val Kilmer's voice was totally artificial.
Right. I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Wow.
So tell them how to get a hold of you, and tell them, I'm assuming you have your wonderful free gift for them.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I
assumed.
Yes, no, it's still available. Compliance Specialists USA.com is my website. You go there, and if you go to the blog page and look up the AI acceptable use policy, you can have your own free policy. Put the information in the form and download it. It'll be emailed right to you, and it'll be for your company, so you can have a policy. And that's an example of the kind of work that we do. We have about 37 policies at this point that a business would work their way through to tighten up all their computer systems, all their processes, document what they have, so that if they did have a data breach, they would not be sued for negligence because they can show they were doing their due diligence, they were working at it. So even if the bad guys did succeed to get in, the impact isn't nearly as traumatic as when you discover you've been breached, and then the government comes along and says, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Show us what your protections were. no protections. Ooh, well, we're going to slap you with a fine for that because that's against the law. You broke the law. That's usually when they find out about the law. That's the wrong time to find out about the law, when you already got the ticket. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I would highly, highly recommend everyone to go to his site, download this, fill it out, finish it. Don't just don't open it. Go ahead and finish it, get it, do it, and file it. Because and then look at what else he can do for you, because we're all at risk in some way or another of this. So highly, highly recommend his services. And if you're on Facebook, please click like and share this podcast out to your friends, because most business people deal with other business people. And so that's very, very important. And if you're on YouTube, please ring the bell, subscribe and then ring the bell, and give us a thumbs up. It really does a major difference in the algorithms. And share this out to your friends, both business people and personal people, because everybody knows somebody in business, and we're all at risk. So
think of all the businesses that you do business with.
Yes, I mean, what a gift! What a gift to give them this in your Christmas card or whatever. It is definitely a gift. So please take advantage of it. And that's why we bring people like Andrew on our shows, is to help improve your life. So we will see you later. Bye.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye. See you